Hello again. So the appointed time was 4 p.m. and we agreed to defer to 5 after 4 to allow people to come in. That's happened now. It's now 5 after 4, so we'll make a start. The first thing I'll do is I'll offer an apology for Ian Anderson. In fact, that's why I'm here today to introduce Marcus. Ian is currently in Shanghai making an invited presentation about the dielectric elastomer technologies overall. So that'll perhaps give you a little bit of insight into how relevant and current this technology is. Many of you know me. My name is Ross Green. A lot of you don't. I've been involved with the commercialisation of this technology with Ian and others over the last few years. And I'm part of the pre-seed investment process here at the University and Uni Services. So, well, here we have Marcus with us. And Marcus has been a postdoctoral fellow here for the last while, and he's now a recipient of what is a rather prestigious Marie Curie fellowship from the European Union, which is going to cover him for the next year. And this, what Marcus is going to talk about today is the applications of dielectric elastomer technologies, principally in robotics. Some of these areas are really very innovative. And what you're going to see, though, is I think actually the breadth of applicability of this entire technology. One of the things I know that isn't going to be discussed today is the impact that this technology may have in a lot of other domains. Certainly the team with proprietary technology has worked out ways of mimicking the behaviours of many electronic and other devices. And that's one of the things that we're looking at getting out into the marketplace today. So I can actually quite confidently predict that you're going to remember this day. Firstly, it's an engaging presentation. I've had the pleasure of seeing much of this material in the past. But I think just roll forward 25 years, because I think this will be one of these days where you'll be able to say in 25 years' time, well, you know, I was there when it started. So with that, I'll get out of the way and hand over to Marcus.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Ross, and thank you all for showing up this afternoon to my presentation about autonomous soft robots without electronics. As Ross already mentioned, we want to talk a little bit about dielectric elastomers and how dielectric elastomer technology will probably change the design of soft biomimetic robots within the next years. Let's start at the beginning. So, what basically is a robot? A robot, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is a machine capable of carrying out a complex series of actions automatically, especially one programmable by a computer. Yeah, interesting definition. So everybody of us knows what a robot is. Everybody can imagine something. Well, we would like to have robots looking like this. But the problem at the moment is most robots look more like that. So robots, or common robots, consist of stiff parts and do not really move like biologic structures. They consist of complex mechanic structures. They possess powerful actuators to do their tasks, and they consist of semiconductor sensors and electronics for signal processing. And all these structures are not really soft or compliant because they are made of rigid materials. So what is then a soft robot? To talk about soft, we need a definition. There's a definition made by the Whitesides group in Harvard. We talk about soft material if it has Young's modulus comparable to biologic structures, and that's the Young's modulus between 10 to the 4 and 10 to the 9 Pascal. So to give you a rough imagination, so Perspex, as we use it in our laser cutter, is 3 times 10 to the 9. So Perspex is on the edge between soft and stiff material according to these definition. Soft robots should furthermore consist of a continuous soft structure and not only of soft parts combining stiffer ones. It should actuate like a biologic structure, so muscle-like actuation, and it should possess all structures which a common robot also have. So we would like to have actuators, sensors, signal processing, and perhaps one day also power source, but all these structures should be built up from soft materials, because only that enables the design of a biologic structure which acts animal-like and has multiple degrees of freedom and is hopefully very autonomous. There are a lot of current developments for soft robots, and I just want to show 3 examples and show the drawbacks of these examples and why soft robots are not totally soft at the moment. The first thing is this little seal. It looks very soft. It's a medical product. It's for rehabilitation or for amusement of elderly people in retirement homes. And it's, if you remove it from the power source, it's autonomous, and it looks a little bit like an animal, but it really behaves not to 100% as an animal. That's because if we remove the fur, it looks a little bit more like this. Okay, to be honest, it looks more like that. But as you can see here in that X-ray picture, there's a huge amount of stiff structures. As you see here, CPU, not really a soft biologic device. We have speakers, we have motors, we have actuators, all covered in a nice white fur, and it looks like a seal, but in the heart it's still a common stiff robot. That example is a little bit more soft. So we have a soft structure, and in the middle a control unit, and that robot can crawl. And they advertise their robot that you can drive over it with a car. Yes, you can, over its feet. But what happens if you drive over that? I'm pretty sure the robot will stop working, because there's still a huge amount of stiff materials involved to drive that robot. That robot is autonomous and can crawl without any periphery, which is a good thing for a soft robot. There's another design. That robot is on the first side totally soft. It only consists from out of silicon, and it also moves kind of animal-like. The problem is, you can see there are a lot of tubes connecting that robot with its periphery. What those videos usually do not show to you is that you need a huge amount of conventional actuators, control units, valves to produce and control the pressurized air to actually drive that robot. That robot itself is really soft, but it's definitely not autonomous, because you always need these tubes to actually supply the pressured air. That's the problem with the conventional architecture of our robots. We have the hardware and the software in a centralized signal processing unit which controls our robot. And our robot is a structure consisting of sensors, actuators, links, and gears. Even if the structure itself is a soft structure, at the moment we have these 2 pieces, hardware and software, which are made of, at least the hardware made of stiff materials. So to develop truly soft robots, we have to replace all functional parts by soft materials, and we have to merge the mechanical structure, the hardware and the software within one continuous soft structure. And how we can do that, we just have to look to the biology. One biological example is a caterpillar. The caterpillar uses distributed actuators, sensors, and signal processing units within his soft structure. The caterpillar has not really a big brain, and you can remove that brain, and the caterpillar is still able to crawl. That means the caterpillar has a distributed nervous system working together with the distributed actuators, in this case the muscles, and the peripheric nervous system generates a driving signal. So we do not have a centralized signal processing unit. Everything is distributed in our caterpillar. So if we want to adapt that, we have to design distributed actuators, sensors, and signal processing units and place them in a soft bio-inspired structure. So that's just an example. So we could build up a system which consists of several little subunits, and every subunit has a sensor, actuator, and signal processing units. But we still have to use soft materials for that, otherwise we would just have little computers and actuators. And we have one material class which can do all of the stuff we need for robot development, and which is also soft. It's a multifunctional dielectric elastomer. And the dielectric elastomer, the first application was the actuator. So we have a membrane with two compliant electrodes. If we apply a high voltage, it will deform and we have an actuator. We can strain the dielectric elastomer, then it will change its capacity. We can measure that, then so we have a strain sensor, and we can even generate voltage out of that. That's what we know about dielectric elastomers. So actuator, we apply voltage and it will deform. A lot of you know stretch sense. We can strain these stretch sensors, and then our mobile device shows how much we strained the sensor. And we can generate electrical energy out of mechanical energy. That's all well known, but we can do something else with dielectric elastomers if we design our electrode a little bit intelligent. We can use it for dielectric elastomer digital units. So we combine an actuator and a little path showed here. That's a piezoresistive element in the initial state. That path here is not conducting, has a very high resistance. And if we apply high voltage to our actuator, this track gets compressed and the resistance drops and the track gets conducting. So as you can see here, the resistance change happens very sudden and is very steep, so that's a kind of a switch. And if we use a logarithmic scale, you can see it's about 7 orders of magnitude resistance change, which is quite a lot. We can use it to design the first dielectric logic unit, the dielectric inverter. If we do not apply an input voltage, the output voltage drops over our high resistance and we have a high output signal. If we apply a high voltage level on the input, the track gets compressed, the resistance drops, and we have no output voltage or only a low output voltage. That works pretty well. And now we can use that inverter architecture to design every Boolean gate you want to have. We showed, or our PhD student Katie showed, that it is possible to build up all 7 basic Boolean gates. This is NAND and OR. NOR is also not so complicated, but we can make it a little bit more complicated. We have XNOR and XOR. And all these gates work, and we basically build up logics without semiconductors. And we are able to switch about 3000 volt with that. So that's for the AND gate, 2 input signals and the output signal, or only high if both are high. The same works for NAND, for OR, and also the complicated XOR work pretty well. So we have actuation sensor capabilities. We have the capability of signal processing with digital logics. So we have nearly everything we need to set up a robot. The first idea for a robot was we built a caterpillar. A caterpillar moves in such a crawling motion, and therefore we would like to have an oscillating signal. The good thing is, if we combine 3 inverters and feed the output of the last inverter to the input of the first, then that system automatically starts an oscillation and gives us 3 voltage signals which oscillate. So we used our dielectric elastomer structures to build up such an oscillator. We have 3 inverters, the dielectric elastomer actuator, the switch. We have resistors which control the speed of charging our actuators and therefore define the frequency of our oscillator. We have a high voltage bus and a ground bus, and we have a feedback loop. And if you can see here, everything is only made of polymer materials and carbon, so there's nothing like conventional electronics. It's just elastomers, okay, a perspex frame, carbon, and different levels of pre-strain. And that structure works. No, I need that mouse. So we have a high voltage input and a ground, and then that structure does that. So it starts spontaneously an oscillation and gives us 3 120-degree phase shifted high voltage signals. The high voltage signals are not very beautiful at the moment. That's because we produce that structures by hand, and the electric properties very, very big, very large. So the switch behavior of our inverters is always a little bit different, but we have that 3 phase shifted voltages and yeah, a DC input voltage. So basically we have a DC AC converter without electronics. We can adjust the oscillation frequency by adjusting the input resistor of our oscillator and a little bit by the level of the input voltage. And therefore we can define how fast our oscillator works and how fast our bio-inspired robot, which uses the oscillation signals, crawls or flaps his wings. So the dielectric elastomer oscillators can drive biomimetic structures, and we, as I already mentioned, had a look to the caterpillar. The caterpillar generates his body motion in his body segments, and he does not need his brain. There are studies where people just removed the brain of the caterpillar, and it still did that. So you have these crawling motion within the caterpillar, and he does it with his distributed nervous system. So we also designed a caterpillar. Caterpillar consists of several body segments. We also have 6 body segments, and the last 3 body segments have our signal processing unit. And the caterpillar rebuilt generates its signals within here and transfers it to the first 3 body segments, and then he can crawl. Whenever one body segment gets a high voltage, the feet beneath it are pulled up and a little bit to the front, and then the feet behind it gets a high voltage. So the caterpillar does very small steps, but with every step it moves a little bit forward. Yeah, we can make a electric model of our dielectric circuitry on the caterpillar and yeah, do the math, but I do not want to talk about that today. I just want to show you that our caterpillar actually works. So the caterpillar gets a DC input voltage, and everything else happens in the dielectric elastomer. You can see the muscles oscillating. At the right we have the high voltage, at the left, other way around, the ground. That's the signal processing unit, the resistors, the switches, the actuators. And here you can see the feet, and the feet have conductive tracks on it, painted on it, so the caterpillar gets his supply voltage from the copper rails through its feet and starts crawling to the front. And because we designed it in that way, it will always crawl in that direction. It does not matter which frequency or which amplitude, it will always crawl in that direction. That depends on how the wave, the electromechanical wave, runs through the caterpillar. So, since the caterpillar is very slow and some people made a lot of fun on Trevor, oh, that's so slow, I decided, okay, we have to build something which moves a little bit faster and is obviously more impressive. So, thanks for that idea. I decided to have a look on dragonflies, and there's a thing called minimum energy structures which looked quite promising to do that. So I combined a minimum energy structure with dielectric elastomer actuators and our oscillator. So basically we have a dragonfly without electronics which does flap its wings with a DC voltage. So we have our oscillator. At the moment the oscillator is not in the dragonfly because it's too big, but I'm quite confident that when we print all that things we can include it in the dragonfly. We have our dragonfly, and the dragonfly has two dielectric elastomer actuators in these minimum energy structures, and when we apply a DC voltage to the oscillator generates a driving voltage, and the dragonfly starts flapping its wings. And that looks like that. Faster than Trevor, definitely. And yeah, that's the oscillator again. And that's the whole system. So we have the oscillator, and here the output voltage goes to the dragonfly and makes the wings flap. Yeah, and depending on the input voltage, we can tune the frequency a little bit. And yeah, that only works because the rings run in resonancy. And yeah, so we combined everything we had and have a nice demonstrator. So, what did I want to show you today? So, the dielectric elastomer technology enables a lot of things we need for soft robotics design. So, at first, they are soft. We can generate very large actuation with it. They have sensory capabilities. We can directly charge or discharge another dielectric elastomer actuator, which enables us to build up signal processors of the same material. And we can basically generate power out of it. It's not a real big power plant at the moment, but physically it's possible, so perhaps we can at some stage replace batteries with it. And the best thing about these polymer or materials is we can print it, 3D, screencast printing, inkjet printing, what we actually want to do, we decide in the next 2 years. And yeah, what's next? At the moment we produce everything by hand and use materials which are quite viscoelastic and not really good. So we want to go to silicon-based materials which are better for actuation. We want to replace the last stiff parts as our Perspex frames by silicon materials. And we want to print our electronics because doing it by hand works, but the characteristics, the electronic characteristics are not really reliable. And we want to develop a whole robotic toolkit which consists of actuators, sensors, and signal processing units where you can pick what you need and put together your robotic application. And that we want to do in the so-called ANSWER project, and that's the second part of my presentation. It's very short. I want to give a short introduction in what we want to do in the next 2 years. The answer project is the autonomous soft electronics without autonomous soft robots without electronics, and it's funded by the European Union. The European Union granted me with such a Marie Curie fellowship, and what allows me to do research here in Auckland. The project has 3 partners. It's the ABI. We do the basic research here. Then we have Festo as industrial partner in Germany, and the university in Dresden, which is the 3rd academic partner. So the idea of these fellowships is that the European Union and other countries, for instance New Zealand, enhance their international collaboration, so that scientists have a bigger international network, a little bit knowledge transfer between Europe and other countries. And for me it should help me developing my career and reach a nice position in the scientific community someday. So the answer project consists of 3 phases. One phase is 12 months here in Auckland, the so-called outgoing phase. Afterwards I'm 3 months at Festo in Germany, and then 1 year in Dresden. The idea is to push forward the development of that soft robots without electronics. We know at that stage that we are able to build the basic parts for it. What we do not know, how can we apply it into real products, what are the production processes, and that's what we will do research in the next 2 years. And our robotic structures should, at the end we would like to have compliant structures which interact with people or other animals or whatever as biologic structures or animals would do. The basic idea is that we only need a very simple voltage supply supplying constant voltage, and everything else, signal processing, actuation, happens in the robot itself. And therefore we divided the project into 3 parts. The first part is a basic R&D that's done here in Auckland. So Auckland has a big know-how about developing such dielectric elastomer structures. And we do some research into that and start the printing investigations. In the second part in Germany at Festos, these guys have huge experience in designing biomimetic robots. So there I will learn a little bit how to design biomimetic robots and a little bit about product development. And when I finally go back to Germany, the idea is to transfer what I learned until then to modern production technologies, because we have a nice clean room facility there with a lot of production technologies. And of course, hopefully a long-term collaboration between the ABI and the university in Dresden. And I am excited, my robots are also quite excited, so everybody's excited. And I thank you for your attention, and I have to mention the European Union for funding all that. Thanks a lot. Questions?
What might be a bit concerning are the fairly high voltage levels. What do you think? What are the key developments that bring that down a bit?
There are several developments to bring that down. The problem is that most approaches which were done, nothing really happened. You can higher the dielectric constant of polymer by put something into it, but mostly then the elastomer gets stiffer. And you can tune the electrical properties a little bit, but most of the times the mechanical properties go in the other way and nothing really happens in total. One idea is to make the membranes very thin, because then you do not need such a high voltage to generate a sufficient maximum pressure. The problem at the moment is we are working with membranes of 40 micron thickness, and if you go down to 10 or even 5 microns, then you get serious production problems at the moment. That probably will get better in some years, but at the moment we cannot really turn the voltage down to under 1000 volts or something like that. But there's nearly no current, so it's not really nice to touch it, but it won't kill you.
Just curious about the frequency of the of your minimum energy structures.
Yep.
And are they snapping back and forth? Going to
Yeah.
different states?
These rings have two stable states, one down and one up, and we. The Dragonfly user on the video has a mechanical resonance between 4 and 5 Hertz, and we have to drive it with an electric signal between 8 to 10 or 11 Hertz because we have to have the double frequency in the electrical signal because of these two stable states. And that's at the moment the record for the oscillators. It's 11 Hertz. But that's because of the material we use. It's very viscoelastic, and we hope that if we go onto silicon and print all our elements and get a little bit smaller, that we can go at least to 100 or several hundred Hertz of signal frequency.
So you haven't really, you're not planning to measure the thrust on that?
At some stage we will. I would really like to see a Dragonfly fly. That was only a demonstrator to show the potential of the technology. There's nothing done as optimization for really flying, but that would be a really interesting problem to make that Dragonfly actually fly. Yeah.
Is there any limits to the size of the oscillators? Like, is there anything to stop you from making it much smaller?
At the moment, my hand.
Yeah, other than like that, like if you have like the ion implanter or something, can you make it much smaller?
We can make it much smaller. The problem is we always have to ensure that there's enough elongation by the actuator to get the switch in its conducting state. So that will probably limit the miniaturization of that. Because if we only have 10 micron elongation, then our switch has to be 5 microns long, and then you in the same time you get problems with the high voltage, because if everything gets smaller and smaller and moves together, then you will soon get some problems with arcing. Yeah.
So can we have a wireless receiver in terms of soft materials, so you don't need to have those plug and voltage supplier? Is it possible? Do you see it coming, or? I think.
Yeah.
So.
In principle, it is possible to transfer electrical energy via induction, wireless. But you will lose a lot of power. But if you do not care about that, it's possible just by two coils. We could print coils. They are printed planar coils. That's not the problem. But then you usually have lower voltage, and then we have to talk a little bit more about dielectric elastomer electronic circuitry. It is probably possible to do that someday. We already have ideas, but I am not allowed to talk about that now. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you.